Welcome to the Mama Time Podcast, where we dive into all things wellness to support and empower you on your journey through pregnancy and motherhood. I'm Charlotte, your host, a proud mama of 3 and a pre- and postnatal yoga teacher. My mission is simple, to help mothers like you feel your best. In this podcast, I'll share practical tools, heartfelt stories, and nurturing practices to help you reconnect with yourself through the ever-changing seasons of motherhood. Because while you're busy caring for everyone else, I'm here to remind you of something so important. You matter too. You are worthy of prioritizing your well-being, and when you do, it creates a ripple effect that transforms not just your life, but the lives of those around you. Along with sharing my own experiences and resources, I'll be chatting with inspiring fellow mamas who are passionate about supporting other women. Together, we'll have honest, heart-centered conversations about their journeys and the transformative tools they rely on to thrive in motherhood so you can thrive too. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into today's episode. Are you ready? Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking all things morning routines and specifically how to reframe morning routines for moms. This can be, I guess, a little bit of a loaded topic, right? Because mornings when you're a mom can be totally unpredictable, just the same way nights can be unpredictable when you're a mom. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is just checking in with yourself and whatever season of motherhood you're in, whatever's happening with your children at the moment. And I want you to ask yourself a question. Is a morning routine actually going to support you at the moment? Is the morning the right time for you? I think it's important that we ask ourselves that because there will be so many people on the internet and other places that, will tell us that we have to get up at 5 a.m. and we have to do all these things to be successful. But when you've been up with a baby multiple times through the night or a toddler, getting up at 5 a.m. might not be the best thing for you. So that's the first thing I want to reframe is just to sort of block out the external noise and actually check in with where you're at. Maybe you're in a phase where you're struggling with sleep, your baby's struggling with sleep, so you are too. And actually sleeping in is the best thing for you. Getting as much sleep as you possibly can so that you can be rested. And then maybe at some other point in your day, you will do like those morning routine things. Maybe a better time for you at the moment is during your lunch break or when your baby goes down for a nap. Maybe that's the time that you would actually take to doing these morning routine things. So whatever season you're in, wherever you're at, I just want you to check in with yourself and seeing if a morning routine is what you need or if you actually need to do that at a different time during your day and if that is going to support you better. Because it's going to change as you go through different changes and as you go through the different stages in your kids' lives. We're not always going to be in this phase where the nights are really hard, so then the mornings are really hard. It will change as they get older. Fingers crossed. Kind of going off of that point as well, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's morning routine. So when I say morning routine, what I really mean is a practice or a group of practices that set you up to feel good for your day, that you're sort of filling your cup before you get distracted by the rest of the day and that time maybe gets away from you. So just to show you kind of contrast, I want to share with you what my pre-kids morning routine was and what my morning routine is now. And kind of what it looked like, in those in-between stages, right? Because at the moment, I've got a 14-year-old stepdaughter, a 5-year-old son, and a 2-year-old son. So my morning routine has taken on so many iterations over that time frame. Before I had my younger two, the boys, I would get up and probably do anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes of yoga in the morning, sometimes maybe 15, but yeah, 15, 30 minutes of yoga, whatever that practice looked like. I definitely had a bit of a more stronger, energizing practice back then. And then I would go walk my dog for about 30 minutes and then come home, get ready for the day. That was my practice. But if you look at it like that was like an hour. And that is so lovely. I do not have that time now. My morning has not looked like that since. And it's like I said, it's changed in the different seasons. When I had my first son, this is something I really struggled with because I missed that practice. And he was my alarm clock, like many moms. He was my alarm clock getting me up. Our routine was, waking up and breastfeeding him. And I just learned to adjust with him over the course of his life, right? So, when he was breastfeeding, I would really try, that first morning feed, I would really try to not just get on my phone and be like, well, he's up, I'm caring for him. So I'm just going to get and scroll on my phone. And look, I learned by trial and error that definitely did happen. And it just didn't leave me feeling good afterwards, like getting on to the chaos of the world first thing in the morning. Like, I just did not need that. So instead, what I would try to do is just put on a meditation. So I'm still sitting with him, still breastfeeding him, but I'm just going to put on either a guided meditation or some affirmations. And that would allow me just to be in a really calm, mindful place while still connecting with him and giving him what he needed. Because I knew that was a moment for some calm time together before he was off and running for the day. And then what I started doing is I would just set him up with his toys as he got a little bit bigger and could play a little bit more independently. I would set him up with his toys next to me, either on a play mat next to my yoga mat, so I could get a little bit of a gentle movement in, because I have always needed that in the morning since having kids, that gentle movement, even if it's just a few stretches and moving with my breath, that really helps me to feel awake in my body and in my mind as well. Just, yeah, I need that stretch to sort of shake off the cobwebs in the morning. Then I'm a little bit more ready to go. So I would set him up next to me with some toys so that he could play and I could move a little bit. And even if he is running in and out, interrupting me, which he doesn't anymore because he's 5, I can sort of get him set up for the morning if he wakes up. But I have a 2-year-old now as well. So he definitely does that. So my morning routine now is I will try to get up before my 2-year-old, but I live in Queensland and it is summer and the sun is up at like 4:30 and he's been getting up at like 5. So the chances of me getting up before 5 on my own are slim to none. So now I get up, I'm still breastfeeding him. So I'll breastfeed him. Sometimes I'm kind of still closing my eyes because it is just so early for me. And then I'll get him up, give him a yogurt. We do put Bluey on in the morning. If he wants it, I will let him have Bluey so I can have a few minutes to myself. Even still, he just doesn't sit very long. So he will come running in and out, either needing something from me or wanting to be a part of my yoga practice. And that is perfectly fine. I just let it be what it is, because if I try to fight it, everyone loses and I will just be more frustrated. So I just try to take it as it comes, accept it for what it is. And yeah, I get my yoga practice in. I might, try to give him something to play with if Bluey isn't doing the job, or I just let him enjoy the practice with me. Sometimes he sits on my lap. So we'll just have a few moments there and I can still do some stretches while he's with me. Every now and then my older son is up as well and they are playing together and that's magic. So I actually do get that, maybe 10, 15 minutes if I'm lucky of a yoga practice. And it's very gentle. I don't really have a strong morning practice anymore. Like my body is just not ready for that first thing in the morning, but I'll at least do some gentle stretches, some energizing stretches and movements to get me moving with my breath. And like I said, that really helps me feel awake for the day. So yeah, if I get like 10, 15 minutes of that, I'm good. And then if I've got them entertained enough, so if I've got breakfast ready to go, I'll give it to them. Like I said, this is a very stop-start practice depending on what they need. But, if we're up at 5, we've got time for that. So I just roll with it. And if they're in a good place, then I will sit in stillness. I'll just close my eyes. I try to do it outside because I much prefer being out in nature, especially this time of year when it's so beautiful outside. That time of the morning, at least in Australia. I know that's not the case for many people in the Northern Hemisphere where it's winter. But I'll just close my eyes and I'll find a bit of gratitude. This is all in, just in my mind. I'll try to find, some gratitude for some things, just whatever I'm grateful for that day, whatever's going on in my life. I'll usually say a prayer for whatever I'm wanting to call in, whoever I'm wanting to pray for at the time. And then I'll just set an intention for my day. So I'll think about what I want my day to look like, how I want to feel, and I'll just really set that intention in my mind. If I have a little bit more time, I will then go on and do a meditation from there, maybe like a 10-minute guided meditation, just to help me feel even more calm and relaxed in myself. But a lot of times I don't end up having time for that meditation, and I'll actually do that sometime later in my day. I am trying to be more consistent with my meditation practice. So I actually have a reminder in my phone that will, if I haven't done my meditation practice by 10 a.m., I'll have that reminder in my phone. It's like, oh yeah, I still need to do that. Like I said, just 10 minutes guided meditation. 20 minutes would be ideal, but I'm just trying to work with the time that I have. I like to try to do 10 minutes. And yeah, a lot of times that will happen maybe later when my 2-year-old has gone down for a nap, or if it's a work day for me, I'll do that when I'm having lunch. And that's another way to get it in. So sometimes it's splitting up those practices as well. Like I said, it's checking in with yourself and seeing what's actually going to work for you. Maybe you do one thing in the morning, one thing in the afternoon. But yeah, just rolling with whatever season you're in and what's going to suit you. Some tips to actually setting up your morning routine as a mom. Like I said, figuring out the time that's going to work for you, when you want to set your alarm for, when you want to get up, or maybe you do just want to get up with your kid and get enough sleep, get as much sleep as possible, and either do that routine with your kids while they're up, or set, that routine to later in the day. You can still have a beautiful routine later in your day, even if it's an afternoon routine and not a morning routine. You can do it then as well. Another tip is to be flexible. Try not to be too rigid about whatever you have planned. We might have an idea of like, okay, on an ideal day, my day will look like this, like I told you about mine. But life happens. Kids are unpredictable. Nights are unpredictable. So just sort of rolling with whatever is happening and taking on the mind frame of something is better than nothing. If we wait for the perfect time frame, the perfect weather, the perfect, night with our kids, we may never get a morning practice in. That it's probably not going to happen. It might happen once in a blue moon, but doing something smaller regularly, I think, and having that consistency is so much more beneficial than doing one big, long practice, maybe every so often. So I really strive to be flexible, but be consistent. So even if it is just a couple of minutes, that's okay. Having that mindset of something is better than nothing. Even if you get interrupted, but you still got a little bit of a practice in, great. You still got a little bit of a practice in. So just setting those realistic expectations and not striving for perfection. And also being realistic with the time frames that you had. Like I said, before kids, I was having an hour of time to myself every day. That is, for me anyway, that is laughable in my life now. Like that unless I go to a yoga class and I'm out of the house and my husband is looking after the kids, which I did this morning and it was beautiful. That doesn't happen. That maybe happens like once a week when I make that time and I'm like, okay, babe, this is my time. And there's something to be said about that as well. If you can work something out with your partner or someone who can support you to have that specific time for you as well, that's amazing. But I think having those day-to-day consistent practices like we talked about are going to go a long way as well. So being realistic with that time frame, what is that for you? Is it 5 minutes? Great. Have that 5 minutes. Maybe you've got 20 minutes. Amazing. But figuring out what that actually looks like and setting a realistic time frame so that you're not setting yourself up for failure and you are just getting more frustrated with the situation. And then with that flexibility, I also really recommend having a plan B. So maybe your kids are really consistently sleeping through the night and they actually wake up at let's say 7 a.m. So you might wake up before that and have a bit of time for yourself. That's amazing. But I definitely recommend having a plan B in case they do wake up or if plans change. So if you've got older kids, for example, maybe you can set them up with an activity or you've got breakfast ready for them so that it's like a very easy thing so that you can get them settled and do your practices. Maybe they want to join you. Maybe your kid is older. I know my stepdaughter, when she was little, she would come and actually roll out her mat and do yoga with us as she woke up when we were up doing yoga. And that was so beautiful. And if you've got little kids, what I would do when both my boys were babies, like I said, is I would have a play mat and toys right next to me while I was doing my routine on my yoga mat. So I could sort of play with them and engage with them, but they were still happily doing their thing as well. So you can make it work both ways. But yeah, having a plan B to involve the kids can, again, just make that easier to adjust if you do need to adjust. I also highly recommend preparing the night before. Like I said, in my house, nights can be pretty unpredictable. They're getting easier, but they can still be somewhat unpredictable. So I know if I've got things prepared the night before, even if I need to hit the snooze button and sleep a little bit longer than I initially planned, I still have taken care of what I have been able to take care of the night before. So I'm giving myself that space in the morning so that I can set myself up in a way that gives me the most time possible to have a little bit of time for myself. And even say, for example, you don't have a good night, you need to sleep as long as possible, there's no room for a morning routine. Just having things set up from the night before to prepare you for the next day, that is still going to help you have a better morning and a better day if you're not having to rush and scramble and stress getting everything ready and rush out the door. As the mom, we're normally the one directing everyone to do all the things. And when we're rushed, that can be a really stressful start for the day for ourselves, for our children. So yeah, just having that stuff ready so that you don't have to stress as much in the morning and then have that carry through to the day can make such a big difference on its own. So it's, those things, right? The things that we have to do every morning. Pack the bags, pack the lunches, pick out the clothes for the next day, anything that you need to have in the car if you can put it in the night before. All of those little things add up and can really make a difference. Even having breakfast planned for the next day, if it's not something you can make ahead, but just knowing what you're going to make and what you're going to feed your kids, all of those things can just make such a big difference to having a smoother morning. I'm not naturally a planner. This doesn't come naturally to me at all. But what I've learned since having kids is the benefits outweigh the effort by far. Me not having to think about that in the morning and have a smoother start to my morning and my day has just made me learn that I need to do that the night before, even though that doesn't come naturally to me. It's not necessarily what I want to do after I put my kids to bed. It's a much better use of my time. And I get so much more out of it the next morning. So I highly recommend doing that, regardless if you're going with a morning routine or not. And then I know I've mentioned so many different ways that you can practice and have a morning routine. But if you need some ideas, I'm just going to share some with you. So, of course, yoga is my go-to. Like I said, I love to move my body. It helps me feel awake in the morning. Even if you don't do yoga, if you've got someone else in your house with the kids and you've got time for yourself, maybe it's just a walk. Maybe it's a quiet walk with no distractions and you can just sort of be with yourself that time. Maybe you wake up more energized than I do and you're like ready for a killer workout first thing in the morning. You want to get your blood pumping. That is amazing as well. I love that for you. And on the flip side of that, maybe you really want to focus on that mindfulness in the morning. Maybe you just want to have a breath practice, or you want to have some more calmer practices after a bit of a movement practice. I really like the combination of both. So just sitting, it doesn't even have to be a very specific breath technique. It can just be, a few deep, calm belly breaths. Just really mindfully breathing in your body. That can just bring some beautiful awareness and calmness into the body first thing in the morning. I love to meditate in the morning. Like I said, it's so nice to get that done and just feel the benefits from that first thing in the morning. So either a guided meditation, I love because it helps me sort of keep my mind focused on what the person is saying who's guiding the meditation, or even just setting a timer. If you've got a specific amount of time, set a timer and just do a complete, stillness meditation in that time. That's a really great way to do that as well. Affirmations are also really beneficial, I find, in the morning. So you can sort of check in with yourself and say, okay, what do I need to hear? How do I want to feel? What sort of support do I need? And you can create your own meditations from there and either read them aloud, you can record yourself saying them and play it back to yourself. Or there's so many, affirmations that you can just listen to on different channels on YouTube, on Spotify that resonate with you as well if you don't want to come up with your own. Gratitude is also so powerful. Even just like I said, I try to sit and come up with a couple different things that I'm grateful for in that day. It just really shifts your focus to noticing all the positive and the good things that you have around you first thing in the morning, and then bringing that with you through the rest of the day. And I like, if my kids are up at that point, I really like to get them involved as well, just as a side note. And so, not in a formal way, but what I'll ask them is say, okay, what makes you happy about today? And then we'll have a conversation about what makes them happy about that day. And it just leads to really beautiful conversations. So those are all my tips around morning routines and motherhood. I hope that it gives you some ideas and helps you connect with what's actually going to support you. And especially as we come into the new year and we start, setting those resolutions about what we want to do, I hope you can customize a beautiful routine for you, no matter what time you do it, and you find some nice ways to fill up your cup. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in today. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope you found inspiration and empowerment in this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with another mom who could use a little extra support or encouragement. By sharing, you're helping us build a community of strong, empowered mamas who are thriving in motherhood together. If you have a moment, please leave a quick review and rating. It really helps more moms like you find the show and feel supported on their journey. For more simple and transformative practices, come connect with me on Instagram at mama_time_yoga. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. And until next time, take care of yourself, mama. You've got this.